So by the end of this video, you will be able to rotate your images as we have here. In our previous video, we first started off by loading the libraries. Next, we created our data set. We have x1 and x2. Again, this is a multilinear situation, so we have two vectors representing our input. And then after that, we combine our two vectors as one. And here we're using MP-stack. Scrolling down, then we created a model using Scikit Learn. We use X and Y to train our model. Then once we had our model, we created a new data set of X's. We have that represented here. And then once we have that new data set, we then plugged in those values into our model to find the predicted Y. So keep in mind that the values were selected in such a way that we would be able to see the plane, which represents regression. And we plotted that here as our last step, and this is what we ended up with. Here, the plane represents the regression, which is the space, which minimizes the distances from the original input. The original input is viewed here in red. So this is where we're going to be starting off. We have the cell here, and we'll go below. So for convenience, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all of the code in the same code block. The first thing that we want to do, starting from here, is we want to load any other libraries that are needed to see this plot. So we're going to need OS, and you'll see why in a moment. So we'll import OS. We'll also need another library called image.io, and we're using this to actually create the GIF. Okay, so next, we're going to make a directory. This directory is going to be used to house all of those images. So as far as how this process works, we're going to have a for loop that is generating images every single time we rotate our plot. Those images need to live somewhere, and I would much rather that these images go in its own folder. Otherwise, you'll have your current file space polluted with a whole bunch of images, and we don't want that. Let's see, let's call it rotate image, or rotate plot example. And let me use underscores instead of dashes. Okay, and then next we're going to use the command called os.make directories, and we're using the directory that we have above. It has a parameter called exist. Okay, and what this means is that if that folder exists, it's not going to complain. It's not going to throw an error. So it's going to keep on going, which is what I want. So next, after we have that directory, which houses those images created, we're then going to create our for loop, which is going to be used to create those images. So we'll say create image files. And I'll need a place to house all of these file names. So we'll do file names equal to that, and then we'll loop through. We can do, let's see, for angle. And I chose to call this angle because every single time we are rotating around it, the angle is changing. We're going to go from 0 degrees to 360, because once you reach 360, it's going to be a nice smooth transition, and this GIF is going to look like it's going to be going forever, but it's actually just cycling from 0 to 360. So now we'll have for angle in range 0 to 360, and our increment is 1. We will do file name. So our file name is going to have the directory, and then it's going to have the actual name. So let's call this GIF image. And because I want these images to be distinct, I'm going to put an angle right here at the end. If I don't do that, what's going to happen is all those images will override each other, and that's something that we don't want. Okay, so we have the file name. We then want to append that file name to file names. This is going to be used later on. So we'll do that. Okay, cool. So now that we're here, we need to update the figure. So we'll do a type update figure. And the way how Matplotlib works is that we need to access the axis view. So we'll do axis dot view underscore init, and then we'll do the elevation. So elevation is going to be the perspective that we're seeing this plot. And then we have, and we're going to be referencing the angle. Okay, so once we have that figure updated, we will then save that figure to the folder. So we'll do figure.save fig, and we'll save that file name. All right, so save figure here. And let me double check to make sure that is not a typo. Okay, so that looks good so far. So what I'm going to do real fast is I'm going to run this code as it is and see if we experience any errors. If we do, I will fix it. Alrighty, so it looks like that works. Good. Next, we are going to create the GIF with image IO. So combine images as GIF. And let me scroll down so we can see more down here. So we'll do image. So images is going to house the image IO objects that we're creating. So we'll do for file, let's do F. So for F in file names, we want to append that object to images. So we do images.append, and we are appending image io.im read, and we are reading that file name that we have, which is F. Okay, let me make sure there are no typos here. Okay, looking good, pretty. All right, and then here we'll have image io dot mim save, and let's give this GIF a name. We can call it create rotation dot GIF, and we're then passing the images that we have. These are the again, these are the image IO objects. So I'm going to run this to see if anything pops up. Alrighty, so far looking good. So the last step is to actually show what we have. Right now on my file system, I should have that image because this ran without issue. So what I want to do at this point is I want to show this image. I want to show this GIF that was created. So I'll do, let's see, we'll do Markdown here. Regression plot. And this is with matrix movie, bullet time, rotation. Okay, we have that, and what we'll do here is we'll call it, we're going to be using Markdown to access this particular image, so we'll do, we'll call it chart, and here we'll have, we call it create rotation, so create rotation dot GIF, and let's give this a name. So we'll call this chart here also, and voila, we have what we wanted to have. So as you see here, we have the image that was rendered in Scikit Learn for regression. But what's cool about this is that we have this being rotated. And the reason why this is beneficial is because this makes it easier to visualize the data and to see what's going on.